Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. His appearance is brought to you by Calvi Electric, now offering residential services for your home and business online, calvielectric.com. What's going on, Mike?
Hey, how are you, Mike?
Everything's good, man, and obviously we got the four NFC East teams out of the way. They all played. Philadelphia with a pretty impressive win. So do we take anything from that? Do we change our views of this team at all, or is it, they beat the Falcons?
I think you got to be impressed with the Eagles. I think, today's overreaction Monday, right? But I don't think there's anything wrong with overreacting. As I say to my good friend Jack McCaffrey, who's a columnist up with the Delaware County Times, I'll judge you on what you do today. And if you're even better tomorrow, that's great. And if you're worse, if you played bad next week, we'll judge you then. But the Eagles checked all the boxes right on Sunday. The only caveat I would say is I think the Atlanta Falcons are a really bad football team. But what do good football teams do to really bad football teams? They beat them 32-6.
Yeah, and they went on the road to do it. Another, fact that gets missed here. I guess, for me, Mike, many people say, man, you're way too high on the Eagles. I said, I'm not too high on them. But I will say, if the offensive line can stay healthy, they have a shot to win each week with that offensive line. I thought the line dominated yesterday.
Yeah, and obviously I thought the Falcons hurt themselves with some, the inability to score those first two possessions. That was probably the game, right? They moved the ball down the field on the Eagles, and they got to settle for field goals instead of touchdowns right there. And that was a big turning point in the game. Yeah, I'm impressed with the Eagles. Jalen Hurts, check. Devontae Smith, touchdown, check. Jalen Reagor, touchdown, check. Nick Sirianni coached a good game, check. The defense made adjustments, check. You really can't criticize anything the Eagles did. And the people that picked them to win 10, 11 games, they look good now. And the people like me who picked them to win 5 games, we got to be quiet for a week.
Mike, obviously, Howie Roseman gets a lot of heat for the drafts, but a lot of draft picks, a lot of homegrown guys helped out yesterday. Smith, Gainwell, Reagor, Mailata. They had a pretty good day with some of their draft picks. Hurts, by the way, he looked pretty good. So some homegrown guys helping out for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, what they have to be maybe most encouraged by is that Jalen Reagor touchdown, right? Because that's a big question mark you had coming in. You were worried that you maybe wasted that, last year's number 1 pick, and he had a good game yesterday. Like you said, I hear an awful lot of people knocking Howie Roseman, but, just about every player he acquired in the past 2 seasons, performed well yesterday. So we'll see what happens going forward. But hey, the NFL is 1 game's big. What would you rather be right now? 1-0 hosting the 49ers, or be like the Giants and Washington? They're both 0-1, and they got a game Thursday night where the loser of that game, 2 in the season, their season might be over.
Yeah, that's a good point, Mike. So let's transition into what happened with the Giants yesterday, because they had a home game, and they were a home dog in the game. And obviously the whole Saquon Barkley, was he going to play? That was kind of hovering over. But everybody, Daniel Jones, and they just looked lifeless in their game yesterday. I had a lot of that game on because it was the standalone 4 o'clock game, flipping back and forth while Cleveland was beating up on Kansas City. And then, of course, Kansas City came back. So I saw a lot of Giants just look like a lifeless bunch out there.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I think Giant fans are just tired of it. I'm tired of Daniel Jones. I'm tired of the same nonsense. I think the Giants defense played well. They cracked late, but they can only do so much. They did a good job. They got some turnovers, but could the Giants score more than, basically 7 points while the game's going on? This is Daniel Jones' 3rd year. It's the 3rd year that we're seeing this. And a lot of text I got from Giants fans were like, I'm done with this. I'm tired of watching it. The skill position guys are allegedly there, but they don't make plays. And the offensive line didn't really protect them.
Their line stinks.
I think the Giants' defense is pretty good. I think they've got players, but there's only so much they can do. You got to score more than a touchdown in a game. And the first series killed them, right? They make the long pass, they get down to the 30-yard line, and then they go backwards from there. And it seemed like they never recovered from that. And now Thursday night, they're going to Washington. And if they start 0-2, football season over for the Giants.
Well, it's like you mentioned the defense, which I agree. I think their defense is better, but they give up, 100 yards. No, one of those a 70-yard run to Gordon. Other than that, but they give up 100 yards to Gordon. But Bridgewater, I thought, beat him up pretty good. I mean, he was 28 of 36. I thought he found guys all day.
Yeah, I thought they did a good job of kind of bending, not breaking. The game was 20-7 late in the second half. But I just think it's the NFL, right? And when you're on the field that long, sooner or later the offense is going to score some points. You saw it in the Eagles game, right? The Falcons had controlled possession early, but in that second half, the Eagles seemed to have the ball all the time, and the Falcons' defense eventually fall apart. It's the NFL. Eventually, the defenses are going to fall apart as the game wears on.
Well, over to Washington, who also lost at home. So tough way for them, the defending NFC East champions. They lose Fitzpatrick. He's already been placed on the injured list, so Tyler Heineke is going to start that game on Thursday. But Washington, who gets a home game out of the gates and loses, all of a sudden, you got to feel a lot differently about that team if you were someone who liked Washington. Because their defense really good. And I thought their defense played pretty well, but surprisingly, they gave up some key third down plays, and they gave up 100 yards to Allen. So that team, all of a sudden, to me, seems like it's in a little bit of a different spot than I thought 2 weeks ago.
Well, I agree. I thought the defense, played solid. I think San Diego's pretty good, right? I think the Chargers are a pretty good football team. They got a good quarterback. They go in and score some points. But you're right. One of the reasons I felt good about Washington was I thought the upgrade in quarterback spot. I thought Fitzpatrick is what he is, but he's better than Alex Smith and Haskins. Now you don't have Fitzpatrick, so who knows where you're going. And they're in it, that's a desperate game Thursday night, because if Washington were to start the season with back-to-back home losses, I mean, where are you going from there? So that is, Thursday night football might as well be desperation football in week 2, because the loser of that game is in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, you're right, Mike. It's because, and then Dallas, of course, that we talked about them from Thursday. They play Philadelphia, not this week, but the following week. So that one will be interesting, because one of those teams will be 0-2, and then, of course, Dallas and Philly will get in. Because there's not a lot of – it feels like Philly's division games are all kind of backed late in the year. And
Dallas back into the season.
Yeah, Dallas plays the Chargers this week.
Yeah, I still feel good about Dallas. I thought they were impressive, and I think with Dak Prescott back, before he got hurt last year, their offense was really playing well. And you can, argue that they are a controversial pass interference call that wasn't called, basically, away from beating Tampa Bay. So, I still feel good about the Cowboys, but they've got a big game coming up this week. And then, of course, the Eagles on Monday night, 2 weeks from today. So it's amazing how quickly, again,
it moves, man.
Yeah, it's overreaction Monday, but I don't think there's anything wrong with overreacting, because one football game is a big, big deal.
No, you're right. So give me the biggest overreaction from the Eagles win.
Biggest, you
hear it all, man. You get it from both sides.
Yeah, maybe Sirianni going to Canton would be the, the overreaction there. Let's settle on that, and maybe Hurts a little bit too, because here's what I think. I think Sirianni now looks like a genius, because in the preseason he didn't show anything. So they come out in those RPOs, and they really had the Falcons kind of on their heels basically. Now, the 49ers are going to get, a video of it. They're going to get a better idea of what, exactly the Eagles are doing. They're going to be able to game plan, I think, more effectively to stop it. So let's just pump the brakes on Sirianni a little bit and see where it goes from here.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting point, because Sirianni, I really felt, had a great game plan. I mean, it was good to see. I always say accentuate the positives. I loved what he did with Watkins early. Boom, boom, boom. And then you had to account for Watkins like all day the rest of the day.
Right.
And that opened things up for other guys. Like it was like watching a slow burn in a wrestling story. Like, we start out with this guy. Oh, and when are they going to go back? They never went back to him. But you had to account that he was going to be there. And then the rest of the day, I thought that he had a really good pulse of on play calling yesterday. Something the other coach did not do very well last year.
Right. I thought they did a great job. I thought the only questionable decision was when he passed up the field goal. Right.
That was it.
Went on fourth down. That was it. But, we'll see. this week what he's like, because, I kind of get the feeling like, a rock and roll band sometimes puts out a great first album because they got a lifetime of songs and they put those 10 songs on the album and they're all spectacular. And then they got to write 10 new songs for the second album and things don't go so well. So did Sirianni spend a lifetime or an off season preparing for this opener? Let's see what he's got in week 2. But again, guys like me, I said 5-12. I got to be quiet this week because the Eagles look good.
All right, so the Eagles are ahead in the NFC East. They're the only team in the division at 1, and that's notable because all 4 of these teams have major flaws, and they don't play each other, at least Philly, until late in the year. They have a lot of division games later on in the season. Now, Philly plays Dallas not this week, but next week on Monday night. Their next division game after that isn't until November the 28th. They play Dallas, and then not again until November 28th will they play a division game for Philadelphia. So this division is going to be very interesting. Mike, over the weekend, the Phillies, 3 out of 4, they lose to the Rockies. Joe Girardi said, stunk, unacceptable, but 4.5 out. Is it to the point where they are now done?
I believe so. I just think they just can't overcome what is, a lack of talent and subpar years by the guys that are out there. Again, you look at that infield. Bohm is in the minor leagues. Gregorius has had a bad season. JT Realmuto has had a bad season. Andrew McCutcheon's been inconsistent. Andrew Nola's had a bad season. The bullpen's had its ups and downs. I kind of just posted a story on our website a little bit ago, pressofac.com. I think Joe Girardi has lost his sense of humor with the Phillies. And I think, if they don't make the playoffs, which I don't think they're going to do, there's going to be some questions in the offseason. Girardi is entering into the final year of that contract. There is a club option for 2023, but do the Phillies pick up that option? Do they let Girardi manage as a lame duck guy next year? I mean, it's going to be an interesting offseason if the Phillies, as we expect, do not make the postseason. And 4.5 back, 2.5 back in a wild card, I don't see it.
Yep. Mike McGarry, biggest story in high school football this weekend was?
Millville, 49-38 over Shawnee. LeQuint Allen with 6 touchdowns in the game, 300 yards rushing. Millville goes over to Medford, wins the game. They're 3-0. They make a statement. So a great job by the Thunderbolts kind of establishing themselves as, one of the top teams in the state with a big road win.
All right, Mike McGarry, Press of Atlantic City. Check out, of course, pressofac.com for all of Mike's Phillies, Eagles, high school, and everything else happening. He does it all. His column, Must Win, appears on Friday, and he'll be back here on Wednesday as we'll take a look at what's going on. Eagles and 49ers should be a good one, and we'll have that coverage all week long. All right, Mike, take care, pal.
All right, see you down the road, Mike.
All right, Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City always does a good job covering all of the teams. He's kind of their do-it-all guy, and we appreciate him jumping on 3 times a week right here on the Sports Bash.